Welcome to FlyEaglesFly News, where Eagles fans get the latest, fastest, and hottest updates. Hit subscribe and fly high with us, the word around the league. Whispered in corridors and amplified by the tone of anxious fan bases is that the 49ers are feeling something dangerously close to panic. And this feeling is not coming out of nowhere. When you listen closely to the conversations happening behind closed doors, you can sense a growing belief that the Eagles are quietly positioning themselves as an overwhelming force, a team that looks complete in every phase and frighteningly confident from the outside. It feels like momentum is shifting in a way that cannot be easily stopped. And insiders suggest that this shift is being felt most strongly in San Francisco. There is talk that coaching staffs are revisiting old notes, rewatching familiar clips, and questioning whether their previous assumptions about matchups still make sense. The Eagles, according to these rumors, are not just healthy, they are synchronized, playing with an edge that comes from trust and repetition. This is the kind of situation where doubt creeps in, where preparation turns into overthinking, and where a normally steady organization starts to look over its shoulder. The narrative building around the league is that the Eagles are no longer chasing anyone, they are setting the pace. And that realization alone can be unsettling for opponents who believed they had control of the story. As these speculations grow louder, another layer adds fuel to the fire, because the Eagles are being described as a team operating at full strength, both physically and mentally. Sources close to the situation hint that key players are not just available, but thriving in practice, pushing each other in a way that sharpens focus rather than creating tension. This is the kind of environment that coaches dream about and rivals fear, because it suggests a roster that is buying into a shared vision without hesitation. Meanwhile, the 49ers are rumored to be grappling with small uncertainties that feel bigger than they should, tiny questions about timing, communication, and adaptability that can snowball under pressure. The contrast is striking when you hear it described this way, as if one team is breathing freely while the other is holding its breath. Analysts who thrive on reading between the lines say that this is exactly how narratives flip in this league, not with one dramatic moment, but with a slow realization that one side feels lighter, faster, and more assured. The Eagles, in this telling, are becoming the team everyone measures themselves against. And that kind of psychological advantage can be just as powerful as talent. What really sets tongues wagging is the belief that the Eagles have unlocked a level of versatility that makes game planning against them feel like chasing shadows. Rumors suggest that their coaching staff has been deliberately holding back certain looks, not out of fear, but out of confidence, trusting that the foundation is strong enough to support constant evolution. This idea alone is enough to unsettle an opponent, because it implies that what you think you know might only be a fraction of the full picture. The 49ers, on the other hand, are said to be reacting rather than dictating, a subtle but important distinction that can define high-level competition. In locker room chatter across the league, you hear the same theme repeated, that the Eagles seem to have answers before the questions are even asked. This creates an aura, an almost mythic sense that they are always one step ahead. Whether this perception is fully accurate almost becomes irrelevant, because belief drives behavior, and behavior shapes outcomes. In this atmosphere, even a confident team can start to feel the walls closing in, and that is where panic narratives are born. Adding to the speculation is the way Eagles players are reportedly carrying themselves, with a calm intensity that signals readiness without desperation. Observers describe practices that feel crisp and purposeful, with leadership emerging organically rather than being forced. This is important because it feeds into the idea that the team identity is settled, not in flux. Compare that to the whispers about the 49ers, where leadership conversations are said to be more vocal, more urgent, as if reassurance is being spoken into existence. There is nothing inherently wrong with that. But in the rumor mill, it becomes a sign of imbalance. Fans pick up on these subtleties, and soon the narrative takes on a life of its own, spreading through social media and talk shows until it feels unavoidable. The Eagles, portrayed as united and focused, become the standard, while the 49ers are cast as a team trying to steady itself against a rising tide. This kind of storytelling is powerful, especially when it aligns with what people think they are seeing on the field. The idea that the Eagles are a super favorite does not come from one single factor, but from the accumulation of small, consistent signals that point in the same direction. Rumors talk about depth stepping up seamlessly, about adjustments being made without visible disruption, and about confidence that does not waver when challenged. for an opposing team. This can feel suffocating because it suggests there is no obvious weakness to exploit. The 49ers, according to speculative chatter, are aware of this perception and are wrestling with how to counter it without abandoning their own identity. That internal struggle, whether real or exaggerated, is exactly what fuels panic narratives. The more a team is described as searching for answers, the more the other side is painted as having them all. In the echo chamber of sports media, these impressions grow louder with every retelling. By the time you step back and look at the full picture painted by these rumors, it becomes clear why the Eagles are being talked about as a force of inevitability. The story is not just about talent, but about timing, health, confidence, and the sense that everything is aligning at once for the 49ers. This creates a daunting backdrop, one where every move is scrutinized through the lens of anxiety. Whether this panic is truly felt inside the building or amplified from the outside almost does not matter, because perception shapes pressure, and right now, the perception is that the Eagles are surging with unstoppable energy. While their rivals are bracing themselves for a storm they are not sure how to avoid. As the speculation deepens, the conversation shifts from simple concern to a broader sense of inevitability, as if the Eagles are walking a path that feels preordained by momentum and belief. People close to the league love to talk about how confidence can be contagious, and the Eagles are being described as the perfect example of that phenomenon. Every practice rep, every sideline interaction, and every interview snippet is reportedly reinforcing the idea that this team knows exactly who it is. This clarity is what separates good teams from dominant ones, and it is why the panic narrative around the 49ers keeps resurfacing. When one team projects certainty, it forces the other to confront its own doubts, even if those doubts are minor. In the rumor-driven world of sports media, minor doubts quickly become major talking points, shaping expectations long before anything decisive actually happens. The Eagles, in this speculative framing, are not just preparing to compete. They are preparing to impose their will. Another layer of this story revolves around preparation, with whispers suggesting that the Eagles are approaching each challenge with a sense of calm control rather than urgency. This is said to contrast sharply with the atmosphere surrounding the 49ers, where urgency is reportedly creeping into conversations. Urgency can be motivating, but it can also signal pressure, and pressure is often interpreted as vulnerability. Analysts who thrive on psychological angles point out that teams who feel hunted behave differently from teams who feel like hunters. The Eagles are being cast as the hunters, moving methodically and confidently, while the 49ers are portrayed as constantly checking their blind spots. This narrative is compelling because it taps into deep-rooted sports mythology. The idea that belief and mindset can tilt the scales just as much as physical ability. Whether fair or not, these stories shape how fans and even players perceive the landscape. The talk of the Eagles being at full strength only amplifies this sense of imbalance, because health and cohesion are the currency of success at this level. Rumors emphasize that there are no excuses being whispered in that locker room, no hedging language about what might happen if something goes wrong. Instead, the message is said to be focused on execution and trust. For opponents, this can feel like staring at a wall with no visible cracks. The 49ers, meanwhile, are rumored to be evaluating contingencies, discussing adjustments and backups in a way that feels reactive. Again, this might be normal preparation, but in the echo chamber of speculation, it becomes evidence of uncertainty. Fans latch onto these details, and suddenly a narrative of panic feels justified, even if it is built on interpretation rather than fact. What makes this rumor mill especially potent is how it aligns with the emotional investment of fan bases. Eagles supporters are reportedly feeding off the idea that their team is peaking at the right moment, embracing the role of favorite with a mix of pride and anticipation. 49ers fans, on the other hand, are said to be oscillating between confidence and concern, unsure which version of the story will ultimately prove true. This emotional contrast fuels content creators and commentators, who frame every update as another sign of a shifting balance of power. The Eagles, painted as relentless and focused, become the central character in a story about dominance, while the 49ers are cast as a proud rival facing an uncomfortable test of resilience. As these conversations continue to circulate, the sense grows that the Eagles are not just benefiting from hype, but actively justifying it through their approach. Speculative reports talk about attention to detail, about veterans setting the tone, and about younger players rising to the moment without hesitation. This combination is often described as rare and dangerous, because it suggests sustainability rather than a fleeting hot streak. For the 49ers, the challenge becomes not just tactical, but psychological. How to block out the noise and reassert their own narrative. Panic, after all, thrives on external pressure. And the more the Eagles are elevated, the heavier that pressure becomes. This is why rumors of unease persist, because they fit neatly into a story where one team ascends and the other is forced to respond. In the end, this entire situation feels like a classic example of how speculation can shape reality in the world of sports. The Eagles, buoyed by whispers of full strength and unstoppable momentum, are being crowned super favorites in the court of public opinion. The 49ers, confronted with that perception, are said to be feeling the weight of expectation and doubt. Whether these rumors reflect the truth or simply magnify normal competitive tension is almost beside the point. Because the narrative itself has power, it influences how games are discussed, how players are judged, and how legacies are framed. Right now, that narrative paints the Eagles as a team surging with confidence and purpose, and the 49ers as a rival wrestling with the uncomfortable sensation that control might be slipping away. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. The rumor continues to evolve as more voices around the league start connecting dots that may or may not truly exist, but feel real enough to spark intense debate. There is growing chatter that the Eagles are benefiting from something deeper than scheme or talent, a collective mindset that turns pressure into fuel. People love to speculate that this kind of internal chemistry cannot be manufactured overnight, and that it usually appears when leadership, preparation, and opportunity collide at the perfect moment. The Eagles are being described as a group that embraces expectations, rather than shying away from them, almost welcoming the target on their backs. This stands in stark contrast to the way the 49ers are being portrayed as a team trying to manage expectations while also defending its own identity. In speculative conversations, this difference matters a lot, because confidence that is projected outward tends to grow, while confidence that is constantly explained can appear fragile. The narrative machine feeds on this contrast, amplifying every confident quote from the Eagles and dissecting every cautious comment from San Francisco. Over time, these interpretations harden into perceived truths, and suddenly the idea of panic no longer feels exaggerated, but inevitable. Another angle fueling the speculation is the belief that the Eagles are peaking emotionally, not just physically. Insiders love to hint that this team feels connected by unfinished business, by a shared understanding that opportunity windows in this league are fleeting. That sense of urgency, when paired with calm execution, is often seen as the most dangerous combination possible. Rumors suggest that the Eagles are channeling that feeling into disciplined preparation, rather than desperation, which only adds to their mystique. Meanwhile, the 49ers are rumored to be feeling the weight of external narratives, aware that every decision is being scrutinized through a lens of doubt. This can create a feedback loop where the more a team tries to silence speculation, the louder it becomes. In this story, the Eagles benefit from letting their perceived confidence speak for itself, while the 49ers are cast as reacting to forces beyond their control. Whether accurate or not, this framing is compelling, and it keeps audiences hooked, waiting to see if perception will become reality. Ultimately, these rumors reflect how quickly the balance of power can seem to shift in the imagination of fans and analysts alike. The Eagles, riding a wave of speculation about full strength, unity, and adaptability, are being elevated to a near mythical status, a team that appears ready for anything. The 49ers, by comparison, are portrayed as standing at a crossroads, forced to confront both a formidable opponent and the story swirling around them. Panic, in this sense, is less about fear and more about awareness, the awareness that momentum might be slipping into someone else's hands. This is why the narrative resonates so strongly, because it captures the tension at the heart of competition, where belief, confidence, and preparation intersect. As long as the Eagles are seen as surging with purpose and clarity, and the 49ers are framed as searching for answers, the speculation will continue to grow, shaping expectations and fueling anticipation in a way only sports can. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.